Blood seeped through Owen Reeves' shirt as he huddled in the corner of the abandoned barn, the cold October wind of 1879 whistling through the weathered boards. His hand trembled as he pressed a filthy bandana against the bullet wound in his side, each breath sending sharp pains through his chest. 3 days on the run from Blackwater's most notorious gang, and he was certain this dilapidated structure outside Seattle, Washington territory, would be his final resting place. The creak of the barn door sent his good hand fumbling for his Colt, the metal cold against his palm. His vision blurred as he tried to focus on the silhouette framed in the moonlight. "I wouldn't," came a woman's voice, calm and steady. "You'll tear that wound open worse than it already is." Owen's finger eased off the trigger, but he kept the gun raised. "Who's there?" His voice was raspy from thirst and pain. The figure stepped forward, a lantern now illuminating her features, honey blonde hair partially tucked beneath a wide-brimmed hat, a practical dress with a man's coat thrown over it, and eyes that seemed to take his measure with a single glance. "Zara O'Connor," she said simply, setting her lantern on a barrel, "and you're bleeding all over my barn." "Your barn," Owen coughed, wincing at the pain, "didn't look like anybody's barn from the outside. That's by design." She approached cautiously, hands visible. "May I?" She nodded toward his wound. Owen hesitated, then lowered his gun. What choice did he have? He was dying anyway. Zara knelt beside him, pulling back the bloodied bandana. Her touch was gentle but assured as she examined the injury. "Bullet's still in there. You're lucky it didn't hit anything vital, but infection's setting in." "Lucky," Owen repeated with a bitter laugh that turned into a groan. Zara sat back on her heels, studying him. Her eyes, which he now saw were a clear hazel, held no fear, only calculation. "I can help you, but you'll need to come to the house." "Can you walk?" "Why would you help me?" Owen asked, suspicion lacing his words. "You don't know me. I could be running from the law." A small smile touched her lips. "Are you?" "No," he answered truthfully. "Just from men who want me dead." Zara nodded as if that settled matters. "This is the Washington territory, Mr. Reeves. Owen Reeves, Mr. Reeves. Out here, we all have something or someone we're running from." She stood and extended her hand. The wounded cowboy sat alone in the dark, but he doesn't have to heal alone. Not tonight. Owen stared at her outstretched hand, bewildered by this strange woman's offer. Against his better judgment, or perhaps because he had no better judgment left, he took it. The journey to the house was a blur of pain and the surprising strength of the woman supporting him. The modest cabin came into view, a sturdy 2-story structure with a wide porch and windows glowing with lamplight. "My brother's away," Zara explained as she helped him inside. "Trading in Seattle. Won't be back for a week." The interior was simple but comfortable. A fire burned in the hearth, casting warm light over well-worn furniture. Zara guided him to a table covered with oilcloth. "Lie down," she instructed, already gathering supplies from a cabinet. "I need to get that bullet out before the infection spreads." Owen eyed the instrument she was laying out, a knife, tweezers, needle, and thread. "You've done this before, more times than I care to count." She poured whiskey into a cup and handed it to him. "Drink. Then I'll use the rest on your wound." Owen downed the liquor in one swallow, grateful for the burning in his throat that momentarily distracted from the pain in his side. "You a doctor?" "No." Zara rolled up her sleeves and poured whiskey over her hands. "My father was. I learned by watching." She held up a leather strap. "Bite down on this. It's going to hurt." Owen placed the strap between his teeth, bracing himself. Their eyes met briefly, and he saw compassion mixed with determination in hers. Then she began, and the world dissolved into white-hot agony. He must have passed out, because the next thing Owen knew, He was lying on a bed, clean bandages wrapped around his torso. Dawn light filtered through curtains, and Zara was asleep in a chair nearby, her face softened in slumber. Owen tried to shift and couldn't contain a groan. Zara's eyes snapped open immediately. "Don't move," she warned, standing to check his bandages. "The bullet's out, but you've lost a lot of blood." "Why?" Owen asked, his voice barely audible. Zara paused, understanding his question wasn't about his condition. "Because I've seen too many men die alone." She adjusted his blanket. "Rest now. We'll talk when you're stronger." Over the next few days, Owen drifted in and out of consciousness, aware only of Zara's presence, her cool hands on his forehead when fever gripped him, her voice urging him to drink broth or water, her quiet humming as she worked around the room. When he finally woke with a clear head, the sun was setting, painting the room gold. Zara was by the window, mending his shirt, he realized. "You're still here," she remarked without looking up. "The fever broke yesterday. I wasn't sure you'd make it." Owen pushed himself up slightly, surprised by the weakness in his arms. "How long?" "5 days." She set aside her sewing and brought him a cup of water. "Think you could manage some real food?" He nodded, taking the cup with a shaky hand. "Thank you, Miss O'Connor." "Zara," she corrected. "I think we're past formalities when I've seen most of your insides." A smile tugged at his lips despite everything. "Zara, then." She brought him a bowl of stew, then sat watching as he ate slowly. "So, Mr. Reeves, Owen, want to tell me why someone put a bullet in you?" He hesitated, spoon halfway to his mouth. The truth wasn't pretty, and he'd learned long ago that trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. But this woman had saved his life, had tended him through fever and pain. He owed her something. "I used to ride with a gang," he began, setting the spoon down. "The Blackwater Boys, not something I'm proud of. We mostly rustled cattle, robbed the occasional stagecoach. I was young and stupid, thought it was all adventure." Zara's expression remained neutral. "What changed?" New leader took over. Illy Driscoll started targeting settlers' families. "Our last job." Owen swallowed hard. "A homestead outside Fort Worth. Supposed to be just a robbery, but Driscoll shot the farmer for no reason. His wife, too, when she screamed." "And you couldn't stomach it anymore," Zara guessed. Owen nodded. "I tried to stop him, got a beating for my trouble. That night I took my share of the money and left. Been running ever since. Driscoll doesn't take kindly to deserters. Found me in Portland 2 weeks ago, been tracking me north. And now they think you're dead, maybe, probably still looking just to be sure." He met her eyes. "I've put you in danger by staying here." Zara took the empty bowl from him. "Finish healing first, then worry about that." The next few days established a routine. Zara would check his wound in the morning, help him walk a little further each day, first around the room, then down the hall, eventually onto the porch. She'd go about her chores, tending the small herd of cattle, the vegetable garden, chopping wood while Owen rested or helped with small tasks he could manage. In the evenings, they'd talk. Owen learned that Zara's parents had died of influenza 3 years earlier, leaving her and her brother James the ranch. James handled the business side while Zara kept the place running. She was 26, had never married, and could outshoot most men in the county. "Why stay here?" Owen asked one evening as they sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the mountains. "A woman alone most of the time. It can't be easy." "It's not," she admitted, her profile gilded by the fading light. "But it's home. My mother crossed half a continent to build this place with my father. I won't abandon it." Owen studied her, the stubborn set of her jaw, the calluses on her hands, the quiet dignity in her posture. She was unlike any woman he'd ever known. "You're remarkable, you know that." Zara glanced at him, surprise flickering across her face before she masked it with a wry smile. "For a woman, you mean?" "For anyone," Owen corrected. "Most men I know wouldn't have survived what you deal with daily." A flush colored her cheeks and she looked away. "Well, most men I know wouldn't have stood up to someone like Driscoll either." Owen laughed bitterly. "Fat lot of good it did. One man against a gang. I should have known better." "You did what was right," Zara said softly. "That counts for something." Their eyes met, and for a moment, Owen felt something shift between them, a recognition, perhaps, of kindred spirits. Then Zara stood abruptly. "It's getting cold. You should rest." 2 weeks after Owen had stumbled into Zara's barn, he was strong enough to help with real chores. The bullet wound was healing well, though it pulled when he lifted anything heavy. He'd taken to chopping wood for her, enjoying the simple physical labor and the satisfaction of seeing the woodpile grow. He was splitting logs when he heard hoofbeats approaching. Instantly alert, he grabbed his gun from where it rested on a nearby stump and moved toward the house. Zara emerged from the barn, rifle in hand, positioning herself on the porch. They waited in tense silence as a single rider came into view. "It's all right," Zara called, lowering her weapon. "It's just Sheriff Miller." The sheriff, a weathered man in his 50s, dismounted and touched his hat. "Miss O'Connor, got a message from your brother. Says he's delayed in Seattle, won't be back for another week." His eyes shifted to Owen. "Don't believe I've had the pleasure." "Owen Reeves," Owen supplied, holstering his gun. "I'm helping Miss O'Connor while her brother's away." The sheriff's gaze was assessing. "That right. Where you from, Reeves?" "Texas originally," Owen answered truthfully, passing through. "Owen was injured," Zara intervened. "I've been nursing him back to health. He's repaying the favor by helping around the ranch." Sheriff Miller nodded slowly. "Mighty generous of you, Miss O'Connor." He turned back to Owen. "Don't suppose you've heard anything about a gang causing trouble down south? Group called the Blackwater Boys." Owen felt his heart hammer against his ribs but kept his expression neutral. "Can't say that I have." Well, keep an eye out. Word is they're moving north. Dangerous men." The sheriff mounted his horse. "You need anything, Miss O'Connor, you send word." "Thank you, Sheriff," Zara replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. They watched him ride away in silence. "They're coming," Owen said flatly once the sheriff was out of sight. "I need to leave now." "Don't be foolish," Zara snapped. "You're not fully healed and running will just make you an easier target." She turned toward the house. "Come on, we need to plan." Inside, Zara spread a map on the table. "If they're coming from the south, they'll likely follow the main road." She traced a line with her finger. "The ranch is isolated enough that they won't find it unless they're specifically looking for it, or unless someone tells them." "The sheriff seemed suspicious," Owen observed. "Miller's always suspicious of strangers. Doesn't mean he knows anything." She studied the map. "There's a lined shack in the north pasture. You could stay there for a few days, just until we're sure it's safe." Owen shook his head. "No, I've already put you at risk. I'll head into the mountains, lose myself there until they give up and move on." Zara slammed her palm on the table. "And then what? Keep running forever? Is that any kind of life? Better than bringing death to your door," Owen shot back. "These men, they don't care who gets hurt if they find you helped me." "I can take care of myself," Zara insisted. "And I'm not letting you go off half-healed to die in the wilderness." They glared at each other, neither willing to back down. Finally, Owen sighed. 2 days. I'll stay in the lined shack for 2 days. If there's no sign of trouble, I'll come back if there is." "There won't be," Zara said firmly. That night, Owen packed a few supplies: food, ammunition, a bedroll Zara insisted he take. As he prepared to leave before dawn, he found himself lingering, reluctant to go. "I'll check on you tomorrow," Zara promised as she walked him to the door. There's a stream near the shack for fresh water. Owen nodded, words suddenly difficult. Zara, if something happens, if they come here looking for me, I'll tell them you've moved on, she said calmly, that I haven't seen you in days. And if they don't believe you, her eyes hardened, then they'll learn why people in this valley don't trouble the O'Connors. Owen reached out, hesitated, then gently touched her cheek. You're the most extraordinary woman I've ever met, Zara O'Connor. She caught his hand, holding it against her face for a moment. Just come back, Cowboy. That's all I ask. The lined shack was primitive but solid, a single room with a small stove, a narrow cot, and a rough table with one chair. Owen spent the first day watching the valley through the single window, jumping at every sound, his hand never far from his gun. The second day, restlessness drove him to explore the surrounding area, always keeping the shack in sight. The wilderness was beautiful, the mountains rising majestically in the distance, pine forests stretching as far as he could see. For the first time, he allowed himself to imagine staying not just for a few more days, but for good. Building something here with Zara, it was a dangerous thought. Men like him didn't get happy endings. True to her word, Zara rode out mid-afternoon, bringing fresh bread and news. Sheriff came by again, she reported as they sat outside the shack. Asked more questions about you. I told him you'd decided to move on, heading for Canada. Did he believe you? I think so. She broke off a piece of bread. No sign of any gang anyway, the whole valley's quiet. Owen relaxed slightly. Maybe they headed east instead, or gave up, maybe. Zara didn't sound convinced. Either way, I think you should come back to the house tomorrow. Hiding out here isn't a solution. And what is? Owen asked. I can't stay at your ranch forever, Zara. Why not? The question was simple, direct, like everything about her. Owen stared at her. What are you saying? I'm saying the ranch is big. There's plenty of work. James and I have been talking about hiring help anyway. She didn't meet his eyes. You're good with the cattle. You know your way around a ranch. Your brother doesn't even know me. He will when he gets back. Now she looked at him, determination in her gaze. Unless you don't want to stay. Owen stood, pacing a few steps away. It's not about wanting, Zara. It's about what's right, what's safe for you. Safe? Zara laughed, the sound brittle. I haven't been safe since I was born a woman in a place where nature and men are equally unforgiving. I don't need safe, I need. She trailed off. What? Owen turned to her. What do you need? Her eyes met his, vulnerable for once. Someone who understands what it means to stand against the storm. Someone who doesn't run. Owen crossed to her in 2 strides, pulling her up from her seat and into his arms. His mouth found hers in a kiss that was both question and answer, tentative at first, then deepening as she responded, her hands clutching his shirt when they broke apart, both breathing hard. Owen rested his forehead against hers. I've been wanting to do that since the fever broke and I saw you sitting by the window, mending my shirt. Zara smiled, a rare, full smile that transformed her face. I've been wanting you to since I found you bleeding in my barn. Her expression sobered. But wanting isn't enough, Owen. I need to know you won't disappear at the first sign of trouble. I can't promise trouble won't find me, he said honestly, but I can promise I'll face it head on, not run from it, not anymore. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. And I can promise that what I feel for you is stronger than any fear. Zara searched his eyes, then nodded, apparently finding what she sought. Then come home tomorrow. We'll face whatever comes together. She left before sunset, insisting Owen stay one more night just to be safe. He watched her ride away, a curious mixture of hope and dread settling in his chest. For the first time in years, he had something to lose, something worth fighting for. That night, Owen dreamed of Zara, not just of her beauty or their kiss, but of a life, working the land together, building a home, children with her golden hair and his dark eyes. He woke before dawn with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt since before joining Driscoll's gang. He packed quickly, eager to return to the ranch to Zara. The sun was just cresting the mountains when he started down the path toward the valley. Birds were singing, the air was crisp with early autumn, and for once, Owen allowed himself to believe in possibilities. The sound of gunfire shattered the morning stillness. Owen froze, then broke into a run, his side protesting the sudden exertion. More shots rang out, coming from the direction of the ranch. Fear clawed at his throat as he ran faster, heedless of the branches whipping his face or the rocks turning under his boots. Smoke was rising from the valley when he reached the edge of the forest, not from the chimney, but thick black plumes that spoke of something far worse. Owen drew his gun and approached more cautiously now, using the trees for cover. The barn was ablaze, flames leaping into the sky. Near the house, 4 horses were tied to the rail. Owen's blood ran cold as he recognized one, a distinctive Appaloosa with a white blaze. Driscoll's horse. Moving from tree to tree, he worked his way closer until he could see the porch. 4 men stood there, and between them, held firmly by the biggest one, was Zara. Even from a distance, Owen could see blood on her face, but she was standing proud, defiant. Driscoll paced in front of her, his lean frame coiled with menace. "One more time, Miss O'Connor. Where is Owen Reeves? I told you." Zara's voice carried clearly in the morning air. "He left 2 days ago, heading for Canada." Driscoll backhanded her, the sound of it making Owen's grip tighten on his gun. "I don't believe you. See, I know Reeves. He's soft, always was. The kind of man who'd linger where it's comfortable, especially with a pretty thing like you." "Then you don't know him at all," Zara spat, blood on her lip. "He's twice the man you are," Driscoll laughed, the sound chilling. "Is that so? Well, let's test that theory." He nodded to one of his men. "Burn the house. If Reeves is around, that'll draw him out. If not, well, Miss O'Connor here will have learned a valuable lesson about hospitality." Owen's mind raced. 4 against 1, bad odds, but he'd faced worse. He needed to create a distraction, separate them somehow. The man with the torch was already moving toward the side of the house. Taking careful aim, Owen fired. The torch flew from the man's hand along with 2 of his fingers. The outlaw's scream split the air as he clutched his bleeding hand. "Reeves!" Driscoll shouted, turning in the direction of the shot. "Show yourself, you coward!" Owen moved to a new position before firing again, this time taking down the man holding Zara. She didn't waste the opportunity, diving behind a water barrel as gunfire erupted from all directions. "Get inside!" Owen shouted to her, firing again to keep Driscoll and his remaining man pinned down. Zara Army crawled toward the door, but Driscoll lunged for her, catching her ankle. Owen broke cover, running toward the porch, firing steadily. Driscoll's remaining man went down, but Driscoll himself dragged Zara up, using her as a shield. "Drop it, Reeves," he snarled, pressing his gun to Zara's temple, "or she dies right now." Owen stopped, his gun still raised. "Let her go, Illy. This is between you and me." "Oh, I don't think so." Driscoll's smile was cold. "See, she made it personal when she called me less than a man." He pressed the gun harder against Zara's head. "Now drop it, or I paint this porch with her brains." Owen slowly lowered his gun. "That's better," Driscoll said. "Kick it over here." Owen did as he was told, his mind racing for a solution. Zara's eyes met his, and he saw not fear but calculation. She was planning something. "You always were weak," Driscoll taunted, backing toward his horse, still holding Zara. "Too soft for this life. Those folks in Fort Worth, they were nothing, just settlers taking land that wasn't theirs." "They were people," Owen said quietly, "with lives, dreams." "You had no rights," Driscoll laughed. "Out here the only right is might, and I've got that." He gestured with his gun. "Now I think Miss O'Connor and I will take a little ride. You can follow if you want, Reeves. I'll leave a trail of pieces for you to find." Zara moved then, quick as a snake. She drove her elbow hard into Driscoll's ribs, simultaneously stomping on his instep. As his grip loosened, she twisted away. Owen dove for his gun, rolling to come up firing. His first shot went wide, but the second caught Driscoll in the shoulder, spinning him around. The outlaw returned fire, the bullet grazing Owen's arm. Zara had reached the porch railing where a shotgun rested. She grabbed it, levered a shell into the chamber, and fired. Driscoll was thrown backward by the blast, landing in a motionless heap in the dirt. Silence fell, broken only by the crackling of the burning barn and the ragged sound of their breathing. Owen approached Driscoll cautiously. Gun trained on him, but it wasn't necessary. The outlaw's eyes stared sightlessly at the sky, a gaping hole where his chest had been. "Is he?" Zara asked, the shotgun still in her hands. "Yes." Owen kicked Driscoll's gun away, then turned to her. "Are you hurt?" Zara shook her head, though blood was still trickling from her split lip and a bruise was forming on her cheek. "Not badly." Her eyes traveled to his arm. "You're bleeding again." "It's nothing." He crossed to her, taking the shotgun gently from her hands and setting it aside before pulling her into his arms. She was trembling, he realized, the composure she'd shown in the face of Driscoll finally cracking now that the danger had passed. "I thought they'd killed you," she whispered against his chest. "When they came at dawn asking questions, when they started hitting me, I thought they'd found the line shack first. I'm here," he soothed, stroking her hair. "I'm here and they're gone. They can't hurt you anymore." They stood like that for a long moment, holding each other as the adrenaline ebbed. Finally, Zara pulled back, wiping her eyes. The barn. She began looking at the blazing structure. "We'll rebuild it," Owen said simply. Zara's eyes snapped to his. "We?" Owen nodded, suddenly certain. "If you'll have me." Her answer was to rise on tiptoe and kiss him, hard and urgent, as if to assure herself he was really there, really alive. They spent the rest of the day dealing with the aftermath, putting out what remained of the barn fire, burying Driscoll and his men far from the house, tending to each other's injuries. By nightfall, they were exhausted but alive, sitting together on the porch swing. "Sheriff Miller will have questions when he hears about the fire," Zara said, her head resting on Owen's shoulder. "We'll tell him the truth," Owen decided. "That Driscoll's gang attacked you and I happened to return in time to help fight them off. And who you are, what you were running from." Owen considered this. "That too, I think. Not all of it maybe, but enough. Miller seems like a fair man. He'll understand why I left the gang." Zara nodded, then fell silent for a while. "What changed?" she finally asked. "What do you mean? When I found you in the barn, you were running." "Now you're talking about staying, rebuilding, facing the sheriff. What changed?" Owen turned to look at her, taking in the bruises on her beautiful face, the strength in her eyes. "You did. You found a wounded cowboy sitting alone in the dark and said he didn't have to heal alone. And for the first time in years, I believed I deserved better than running and hiding." He touched her cheek gently. "You made me want to be the man you see when you look at me." Zara's eyes filled with tears. "I just see you, Owen Reeves, the real you." "And that's the miracle," he whispered, bending to kiss her softly. A week later, James O'Connor returned from Seattle to find his barn a charred ruin, his sister in love, and a former outlaw asking to court her properly. To Owen's surprise, after the initial shock and some understandably pointed questions, James welcomed him cautiously. "Zara's a good judge of character," he said after hearing their story. "Always has been. If she sees something worth saving in you, I won't stand in the way." Sheriff Miller's reaction was similar when Owen and Zara rode into town to report what had happened. The sheriff listened to Owen's account, a carefully edited version that nonetheless included his past with the gang and his break with them after the killings in Fort Worth. "Can't say I approve of your former associations, Reeves," Miller said when Owen finished. "But a man who stands up for what's right, even at risk to himself, that's a man I can respect." He picked up a wanted poster from his desk. "This is you, I reckon." The poster showed a crude drawing of Owen, offering $500 for information leading to his capture, not for his crimes with the gang, but for desertion and theft, charges Driscoll had clearly fabricated. Miller studied it, then deliberately tore it in half. "Far as I'm concerned, Owen Reeves died in that firefight at the O'Connor ranch. The man sitting before me now is just a hard-working rancher courting one of our most respected citizens." Relief washed over Owen. "Thank you, Sheriff." "Don't thank me yet," Miller warned. "You've got a clean slate, but what you write on it from now on is up to you. Miss O'Connor's vouching for you carries weight, but in the end, a man makes his own reputation." "I understand," Owen said solemnly. "I won't let her down, or this community." The rebuilding of the barn became a community affair. Neighbors from miles around came to help, bringing lumber, tools, and willing hands. Owen worked alongside them from dawn to dusk, determined to prove himself worthy of the second chance he'd been given. Zara watched him with growing admiration, not just for his physical strength or his dedication to the work, but for the way he engaged with the community. He was quiet by nature, but respectful and attentive, learning names, remembering details about families, offering help where needed. By the time the snow began to fall in November, the new barn stood solid and complete. The ranch was prepared for winter, with hay stored, livestock sheltered, and the house made snug against the coming cold. And on a crisp December evening, with a fire crackling in the hearth and James tactfully absent on business in town, Owen knelt before Zara with a small gold band. "I can't offer you wealth or a spotless past," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "But I can offer you every tomorrow I have, every ounce of strength in my body, and every beat of my heart until it stops. Zara O'Connor, will you marry me?" Zara's eyes shone with tears as she pulled him to his feet. "Yes," she whispered. "1,000 times yes." They were married on Christmas Day in the small church in Seattle, with James giving the bride away and Sheriff Miller standing as Owen's best man. The entire valley turned out for the celebration afterward, held in the newly rebuilt barn decorated with evergreen boughs and candles. As they danced their first dance as husband and wife, Owen held Zara close, still hardly believing his fortune. "What are you thinking?" she asked, smiling up at him. "That I'm the luckiest man alive," he answered honestly. "That somehow I found exactly what I never knew I was looking for." "And what's that?" "Home," he said simply. "Not just a place, but a feeling, belonging, purpose." He brushed his lips against her forehead. "Love." Zara's smile deepened. "For a hardened outlaw, you've got quite a way with words, Mr. Reeves." "Only with you, Mrs. Reeves," he returned. "Only with you." As winter gave way to spring, the ranch flourished under their combined care. Owen's experience with cattle proved invaluable as they expanded their herd, while Zara's knowledge of the land and its seasons guided their planting. James, finding himself somewhat of a third wheel, decided to open a trading post in Seattle, visiting regularly but giving the newlyweds their space. Their first challenge came with the spring floods when the creek overflowed its banks, threatening their lower pastures. Owen and Zara worked side by side with neighboring ranchers to build barriers, divert water, and move livestock to higher ground. For 3 days they barely slept, fighting nature's fury with determination and ingenuity. When the waters finally receded, leaving mud and debris but no major losses, Owen found Zara standing on a hillside overlooking their land, exhaustion etched in every line of her body. "We did it," he said, coming to stand beside her. She nodded, leaning against him. "This land tests you constantly. Just when you think you've mastered it, it shows you otherwise. Like life," Owen observed. "Just when you think you've got it figured out, everything changes." Zara looked up at him. "Having regrets, cowboy, not a single one." He wrapped an arm around her waist. "Every challenge we face together. That makes all the difference." Summer brought new triumphs and trials. Their cattle fetched top prices at market, allowing them to invest in improvements to the ranch, a new well, fencing for the north pasture, even a piano that Owen surprised Zara with on her birthday, remembering her mention of music lessons as a girl. But summer also brought drought, making the land tinder dry and dangerous. Forest fires in the mountains had everyone on edge, watching the horizon for smoke, clearing brush from around buildings, keeping buckets filled with water, and it brought a ghost from Owen's past. The rider appeared on a hot August afternoon as Owen was mending a fence in the east pasture. He recognized the man immediately, Tom Rawlins, one of Driscoll's original gang members, who must have been elsewhere when Driscoll tracked Owen to the ranch. "Reeves," Rawlins called, stopping his horse a cautious distance away. "Heard you'd settled down, had to see for myself." Owen straightened slowly, hand moving to the gun at his hip. "What do you want, Tom?" "Information, mostly." Rawlins didn't appear threatening, but Owen knew how quickly that could change. "Driscoll and the boys disappeared back in October. Last anyone heard, they were heading this way, looking for you." "They found me," Owen said grimly. "They're buried on the North Ridge." Rawlins processed this, then nodded. "Figured as much. Driscoll always did underestimate you." He shifted in his saddle. "Gangs scattered now. Some headed to California, others east. I'm on my way to Oregon myself." "What do you want from me?" Owen asked again, not relaxing his guard. "Nothing. Just wanted to let you know no one's hunting you anymore." Rawlins hesitated. "And to say you were right about Fort Worth, about Driscoll. You had the guts to walk away. The rest of us just followed." Owen studied his former riding partner, seeing genuine regret in his weathered face. "It's never too late to change course, Tom. Maybe." Rawlins touched his hat. "You seem to have done all right for yourself." "Better than I deserve," Owen agreed. Rawlins turned his horse. "Well, I'll be moving on. Just wanted you to know you can stop looking over your shoulder." He paused. "Be happy, Owen. Someone should be." Owen watched him ride away, a curious mix of emotions swirling within him, relief that the threat was truly gone, sadness for the wasted lives of men he'd once called friends, and profound gratitude for the life he now had. Zara was waiting on the porch when he returned, having seen the stranger from a distance. "Trouble?" she asked, her hand resting protectively over her still flat stomach, a secret they'd confirmed just the week before. Owen shook his head, drawing her into his arms. "No. Just the past saying goodbye." He placed his hand over hers. "We're free to look forward now, only forward." That night, as they lay together in the quiet darkness, Owen told Zara about Rawlins' visit and what it meant. "So it's really over," she murmured, her head on his chest. "Your old life." "It's been over since the moment I met you," Owen said, stroking her hair. "But yes, now even the shadows are gone." He placed a gentle hand on her abdomen. "Just in time for new beginnings." Zara smiled, covering his hand with hers. "I was thinking, if it's a boy, we could name him after your father." Owen was silent for a moment, touched beyond words. His father, a good man who died trying to keep their small ranch in Texas, would have been proud to see his son now. "I'd like that," he finally managed. "And if it's a girl?" "Hope," Owen suggested. Because that's what she'll represent. Everything we hoped for, everything we built together. As autumn painted the valley in gold and crimson, Zara's pregnancy progressed, bringing both joy and anxiety. Owen found himself checking and double-checking everything on the ranch, determined that nothing would threaten his growing family. "You can't control everything," Zara reminded him one evening as he pored over accounts, planning for every contingency. "I can try," he replied with a half-smile. "At least where your comfort and safety are concerned." Zara took the pencil from his hand. "Do you know what would make me most comfortable and safe?" When he shook his head, she continued, "Knowing that my husband isn't worrying himself into an early grave." Owen laughed, conceding the point. "Fair enough, but you can't blame a man for wanting to protect what he loves most in the world." "No," Zara agreed, kissing him softly. "I can't blame him for that." Their son was born on a snowy January night in 1881, with the local midwife attending and a nervous Owen pacing outside the bedroom until Zara's exasperated call summoned him inside. "Meet your son, Mr. Reeves," the midwife said, placing a small bundle in his trembling arms. Owen looked down at the tiny face, perfect and new, and felt his heart expand impossibly further. "Hello, Thomas," he whispered, using his father's name as they'd planned. "Welcome to the world." He carried the baby to Zara, who was pale but smiling. "He has your eyes," she observed as Owen placed their son in her arms. "And your determination," Owen replied, noting the strong grip of the infant's tiny fingers around his own. He made quite an entrance. Over the next months and years, they fell into the rhythm of family life, the sleepless nights with a colicky baby, the first smile, first steps, first words. The ranch prospered, allowing them to hire help, expanding their operations while ensuring time for what mattered most. When Thomas was 3, Hope joined the family, a daughter with Zara's golden hair and Owen's quiet intensity. 2 years later came Samuel, named for Zara's father, a sturdy boy whose laugh could light up the darkest day. Through it all, Owen never forgot how close he'd come to missing this life, how one bullet, one decision, might have altered everything. Each night, he'd stand on the porch for a moment before coming inside, looking at the stars and silently giving thanks for second chances. One such evening, as spring was giving way to summer in their 7th year together, Zara joined him, slipping her arm around his waist. "Penny for your thoughts," she said, resting her head against his shoulder. Owen smiled down at her, still struck by how beautiful she was to him, how essential. "I was thinking about that night in the barn when you found me." "Were you?" She looked up at him curiously. "Any particular reason?" "Thomas asked me today how we met," Owen explained. "I told him I was hurt and you fixed me." "That's true enough," Zara said with a soft laugh. "Though perhaps not the whole story." "No," Owen agreed. "The whole story is that I was lost in every way a man can be, and you found me." He turned to face her fully, taking her hands in his. "You saw something worth saving when I couldn't see it myself." Zara's eyes shone in the fading light. "I saw you, Owen, just you. A good man who'd lost his way but found his courage when it mattered most." She squeezed his hands. "And every day since, you've proven me right." From inside the house came the sound of children's laughter, then Thomas's voice calling for them. "We should go in," Zara said, but neither moved. "You ever wonder," Owen asked quietly, "what would have happened if I hadn't been shot? If I'd never stumbled into your barn that night?" Zara considered this. "No," she finally answered. "Because some things are meant to be, even if the path to them is painful. You were meant to find your way here, Owen, to this land, to me, to our children." She touched his face gently. The wounded cowboy sat alone in the dark, but he was never meant to heal alone, and he never will. Owen drew her close, kissing her with all the love and gratitude that had built over their years together. Then, hand in hand, they walked back into the house, back to the family and future they'd created together, a future built not despite their scars, but because of them, each wound a reminder of what they'd overcome to find their way home. As the years passed, the Reeves Ranch became one of the most successful in the territory. Owen's innovative breeding practices and Zara's shrewd business sense combined to create an operation that was the envy of their neighbors. But more importantly, they'd built a home filled with love, laughter, and the kind of quiet strength that comes from facing adversity together. Thomas, at 18, was the image of his father, with the same thoughtful nature and steady hands. He took to ranching naturally, already showing signs of the leader he would become. Hope, at 15, had her mother's determination and her father's gentle heart, excelling in school and dreaming of college in the East. Samuel, the youngest at 13, was their free spirit, equally at home with books or horses, constantly curious about the world beyond the valley. On their 20th anniversary, with the children conspiring to give them an evening alone, Owen took Zara riding to the spot where he'd proposed. A blanket spread beneath the stars, a bottle of good wine, and memories that spanned 2 decades of partnership. "You remember what you said to me that first night?" Owen asked as they lay side by side, looking up at the vast expanse of sky. Zara turned her head to look at him, the silver now threading through her golden hair catching the moonlight. "I said a lot of things. Most of them were probably about you bleeding on my clean floor." Owen laughed. "True. But you also said the wounded cowboy sat alone in the dark, but he doesn't have to heal alone. And I didn't. Not for a single day since." Zara's eyes softened with memory and love. "Best decision I ever made bringing you home. Even with all the trouble I brought with me." "Especially with all the trouble," Zara said firmly. "It's the challenges we've faced together that showed us what we're made of." She propped herself up on one elbow. "Would you do it again, knowing everything, the good and the bad?" "In a heartbeat," Owen answered without hesitation. "Every moment, every struggle, every joy. I'd choose it all again if it led me to you." He pulled her down for a kiss as sweet and sure as their first. "To us." As they rode back to the ranch, their home, Owen felt the same sense of wonder and gratitude that had never left him through all these years. From a wounded cowboy healing alone to the head of a thriving family, his journey had been one of redemption and love. And as they crested the hill, seeing the lights of home glowing in the distance, Owen knew with bone-deep certainty that some wounds were worth bearing if they led you where you were meant to be. For him, that would always be here beside the extraordinary woman who had saved him in every way a person could be saved, surrounded by the family they'd built together, on the land that had given them both a second chance at the life they deserved.